Progress is often super boring because of the compound effect. It's something that takes time. It's something that stacks over a long period of time, and people don't like to talk about that. How things actually take time and have to compound for them to be a real difference. And it's a good time to talk about this now because it's the beginning of February, and everybody at this point, for the most part, is starting to fall off or trail off of their resolutions and the progress they've been making for the first month of the year. And that's because the progress isn't happening as exciting as they think it will. It's not this super glamorous thing that is happening all the time and every day. It's often one of the most boring things you can do. It's doing something every day consistently and staying on track with something. And it's usually really boring. Take the gym, for example, the most common one. Beginning of the year, everybody wants to get in shape, and they aren't ripped with six-pack abs and put on 20 pounds of muscle before February 1st, and then they give up. They're done with it. They're like, oh, this isn't for me, whatever. And they haven't given themselves time to tweak their plans or tweak what they have going on, see what actually works for them, see what doesn't work for them. Maybe going in there and lifting weights 3 days a week to 5 days a week isn't for you. Maybe that's not what you're into. Maybe you hate that stuff. Maybe you're more into calisthenics, or maybe you're more into Pilates or something like that. You want to do yoga instead. You want to run instead. There's other things you can do to get in shape and get a body that you're actually proud of. But the problem is, those things are boring, and they take time for you to actually figure those things out. And people don't give these things enough time. And I'm for sure guilty of this myself. I'm really impatient with certain things. And myself, just like others, we don't give ourselves enough time to actually get these results and to get these things going. And it could be the flip of that too. Maybe you are seeing results, but it's just so boring to where you don't even really keep up with it anymore. You're kind of just like, why am I doing this? It feels automated. It feels like you don't have to do it anymore because it got easy. You got over the learning curve, and you feel like you don't have to keep going with it anymore, or something like that. Like somebody that's always picking up a new hobby, and then once they feel like they're good enough in their head, they scrap it and then they move on to the next thing. It's like a dopamine loop in a way. But with things that are usually very meaningful, like the gym, like getting a new skill, something like that, even if you think you may have everything down pat and you think you know everything about it, there's always more to learn, and there's always more progression to be made in those areas. And that's just because how our brains are wired. We like novelty, we like new things, we like that new shiny thing. I think it's called silver object syndrome, where you're always trying to move on to the next thing, the next newest thing. What is making you feel the best? What is making you the most excited at that time? And jumping around between things like that is often how you go nowhere and how you don't make progress in areas that really actually matter to you. You have to actually stick to these things for long periods of time, no matter how boring it is. So back to the compound effect. You have to let these things compound and let these things happen, how they're going to happen, how they're going to play out. Of course, do whatever you need to do to try to speed up your progress, so to speak. But when it is something like the gym, like trying to get in better shape, that's one of those things that if you master, or if you try to master that and try to get as good as that as possible, and you go through those steps of the month and months and years of seeing yourself transform in the mirror, that's when you really get a deep understanding about the compound effect and how long things actually take to really sculpt, and how long things actually take for you to get them to where you want to get them. And of course, the compound effect applies heavily towards money too as well. He talks about that in the book The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. If you haven't read it, go read it. It's nice. It's a good book. But not even just Darren Hardy talks about it. A lot of people talk about that. Warren Buffett, he's one of the biggest proponents of compounding. And I think it was actually Warren Buffett. He has some chart out or some stats somewhere where he got the majority of his wealth in his later years because compounding is so insane that the longer you keep it going, just the more it builds upon itself. So things keep doubling and tripling and quadrupling the more you do these things. That's why it's easier for somebody to build muscle if they have been compounding and doing those things consistently, instead of if you go to the gym for 2 months and then you stop, and then you kind of go back to where you were, and then you go back in it, and then you wonder why you're not getting the progress, then you stop again after a few months. But if you would do that consistently over the course of months, you would actually see real results and real things. And oftentimes, like I've been saying, it's boring. Usually these things are boring. Trying to build muscle is boring after a while. Like, I love weightlifting and all that, but it does get boring after some time. You got to switch it up. You have to do different routines, change your split, do things like that. But if you're still going with stuff at the beginning of February right now, or even if you started before the new year, or even if you want to start right now, if you want to start today, do it and stick with it for a minimum of 3 months. And if it starts to feel boring and you're starting to see a little bit of results, you're probably doing the right thing. It's not going to be the most exciting thing on the planet, but you got to keep going with it. And oftentimes these things take years, and years of boredom is where a lot of really important things happen, and where you can get a lot of progress in areas you never thought you would have progress in, like building credit. That's another one. That's one of the most boring things you can do, but it takes time and you have to stick with it for years oftentimes. But once you actually build that credit up and you have those high limits and you have that high score, and you can get approved for things you want to get approved for, or that you need to get approved for, then it makes it all worth it when you have already put in the work and the consistency and that compounding, that boring compounding, and you let these things stack up on top of each other. Because when you actually do need to cash in on those things, it really matters. And that goes for your credit, your health, your investing, your financial situation, your learning. The more you learn and compound your self-learning, years go down the road and you have compounded so much knowledge, you're a well-rounded individual. All of these things really matter. So I just wanted to come on here real quick at the start of February, where a lot of people fall off. But if you haven't fell off yet and it's boring, keep going with it. Keep compounding that. Keep it going until summer and see what happens. If you got this far, my name is TJ. If you found this helpful at all, consider liking, consider subscribing. I got some more stuff on the way, so stay tuned for that. And until then, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all.